Ruin my weekend and you will regret it. So 2 years ago, me and a group of friends rented a condo in a popular tourist town for a long weekend. We paid a pretty penny, but the location was perfect for our needs. When we got there, the building and condo were both pretty underwhelming, but we didn't care. It was just a place to sleep and we wouldn't be spending much time there. When I say underwhelming, I really mean the building was unsafe. The exterior egress stairwells had sections rotted through, loose railings, you name it. Not long after checking in and getting settled, we were able to figure out that this place was going to be a problem. The Karen neighbor upstairs demanded we move a vehicle from the unloading zone because it had been there too long. It had been there for about 20 minutes and we were still unloading food. She was quick to inform us that she was the president of the COA and if we step out of line again she will have us removed without a refund. Right after this, a black pickup truck pulled up and she beelined to talk to the driver who never got out of his vehicle. Later that afternoon, another group checked into the condo next to us, but Karen wasn't there when they checked in, so they didn't get the same uppity treatment. Our group left to go out to dinner and ended up staying out pretty late. When we got back, everything was quiet and we were lights out not long after. The next day, the condo next to us is already getting after it pretty early. This is a pretty busy weekend in this particular town, and they definitely have other friends in town too. They're beaching, swimming, loud music, really not bothering us though. We keep noticing that black pickup driving by almost hourly. We assume he's probably a local that lives in the neighborhood and don't think anything of it. We go out again for dinner and head back to the condo to grab a pre-game beer or two before going out for the night, and it's a madhouse. The condo next to us is having a party that is spilled into every open space on the property. We go into our condo, lock the doors, and snap a few pictures/videos in case we have to show our host that we were not involved. As we're sitting in our condo finishing our beers before we head out, no music on, football was on TV, the door slams open and we're greeted with a screaming "What the fuck are you assholes doing?" from a guy that barges in, key in hand, with Karen watching from outside the door. We immediately spring up ready for a fight. We don't know this guy and at first thought he was with the party and broke down our door. He then identifies himself as the host, condo owner, and again starts screaming at us. As it turns out, Karen told him we were hosting this large party, not bothering to take notice that it was the condo next to us. She piggybacks off of him screaming at us that we're destroying the condo and need to leave. We asked them to step outside and we will come out to talk numerous times, all while we're now recording, but they both refuse, just repeating "Get the fuck out, leave," at us. So we call the cops. When he realizes that my one friend is on the phone with the dispatcher, the owner catches some post-dash, yelling, "Nut clarity," and reality smacks him. He begs for my friend to hang up, but he refuses. He immediately changes his tone and yells at Karen to go back upstairs to her unit. The police show up, a few cars since the initial call was for someone who was irate and forced their way into our condo. They see right away what's going on, break up the large party, and ask us nicely if we can work things out with our host, who has pulled a full 180 and is trying to smooth everything over. At this point, we realize that the black pickup belongs to our host, and he tells us the reason he was driving by almost hourly was that Karen kept calling him complaining about us. This whole time, Karen is out on her balcony chirping, saying we were doing stuff that we weren't, citing COA violations, definitely half shot in the ass herself. We inform our host that we're going to vacate and handle the issue through the third party we booked through. He doesn't like this and is trying to hide his rage while being nice in front of the officers that are still there. He insists if we vacate we won't be entitled to any refunds and all the usual BS they say when they know they're wrong. We show him the rental contract that says the owner can't enter the condo except for certain exceptions that don't apply. So we round up our stuff and check into a motel that the third party's customer service found for us. Revenge had to be doled out here, I just couldn't let it go. So I sit down and do it the right way. What the condo owner and Karen didn't know is, I used to work in this town when I was younger, or should I say I worked for the town, specifically doing code enforcement, building, fire subcode, fire safety, and local ordinance. I filed a complaint with the town against the COA that was to this day one of the longest they've ever seen. The inspector went out and actually red-tagged the property, meaning uninhabitable until repairs are made, for some of the worst violations. In total, the COA had to spend over $70,000 to fix their violations, in addition to the costs of the penalties/fines and reapplying for their license to rent. It cleaned out their coffers and each unit had to shell out cash. There was a rumor that Karen was investigated for stealing from the COA, but I never heard if it went anywhere. Oh, and the third-party app fully refunded us. If you're going to be an asshole, you're going to pay for it.
My ex-sister-in-law was the type to put on airs and tell everyone how well-to-do she and her husband were. Christmas was hell because she always gave out a list of expensive gifts she wanted and wouldn't accept anything not on the list. This was not a two-way street. For example, the year that sticks in my mind was the year she insisted I buy her a really expensive scarf from a local boutique. We couldn't afford it, so I spent 3 months looking for scarf made from the same material and a pattern so close you would never know the difference, unless you were myself. She opened her gift and instantly looked at the label. She huffed, rolled her eyes and put it on the floor next to her slippers and opened all her other gifts. No, thank you or anything. The next day, she had posted on social media about the pile of crap she got for Christmas with a picture of the scarf. Most of her friends simpered over her being so butthurt and asked who I thought I was buying her such cheap crap. Some, though, said the scarf was gorgeous and was so similar to the expensive one that they couldn't really tell the difference. These people were quickly put down for also being cheap. Cue petty revenge. I waited 12 months, refused to look at her gift list and ordered her gift. Christmas Day at her house again. She wouldn't go to her other family members' houses as they were all not as nice as her house, so we all had to spend our Christmas Day in the car for 2+ hours going to hers. I handed her a small envelope. She looked pleased. I later discovered she had asked for some gift vouchers for a really expensive jewelry shop. She excitedly opened it to find an Oxfam voucher for £50 to provide a foreign village with manure for their crops. The message I wrote: at least this year when you tell everyone you got a pile of crap for Christmas, you won't be wrong XXXX. Everyone burst out laughing. She was unaware that I knew about the moaning from the previous year. The look on her face was worth all the nastiness from her until I finally divorced her ass of a brother, who left me 3 weeks after my brain tumor diagnosis. Just for context. The year of the scarf, we were gifted her 2 children's school photos and 2 cheap picture frames from Tesco. The year of the crap, we got tea towels.
When I was about 19 years old, I rented a small 1-bedroom duplex. The other part of the duplex was a 2-bedroom duplex unit that the landlord daughter lived in. The landlord's house was on the same property and there was a shared driveway that split and went to each place. This will come up later. My rent was due on the 10th of each month. The landlord had the utilities all on one and charged me in the middle of the month according to usage. One month I walked up to her house to pay the rent. I always paid it on the first Wednesday of the month. She didn't answer the door. I tried again later in the day and still no answer. I tried again the next day. Still no answer, and I knew she was home. This time I had the check in an envelope and left it in the door slot. This was on the 6th of the month. I had a feeling something was up. The landlord was avoiding me. The next day I came home from work and there was a 24-hour notice to vacate for non-pay. I tried contacting the landlord, she wouldn't respond. This was on the 8th of the month. The next day the landlord shut off my electricity and gas heat. It happened to snow that day. I went down to the legal aid office, and although they couldn't go to court with you, they could give advice, and the attorney called my landlord to see if they could help resolve whatever was going on. The attorney advised who he was and where was from. The landlord barely let him get this out. She started screaming at him so loud I could hear her. She said no government employee or anyone was going to tell her how to run her properties, and hung up. The attorney looked at me and said, "We're going to fry her so hard." This where the driveway comes into play. It is a single dirt road which splits and goes to my place or farther to her house. By the time I got home and was pulling in my driveway, there was sheriff's car in front of her house. Apparently, the legal aid attorney had filed a restraining order against my landlord due to her shutting off my gas heat, which was a threat against me. The landlord called legal aid and she was told she needed to get an attorney since she wasn't willing to work with a government employee. After all was said and done, I got 45 days to move, 3 months rent, utilities, and deposits paid plus $5,000. That was a lot of money back then, probably 10 times of what it would be today. And the reason for all of this. Her other daughter was moving from Hawaii and she wanted unit for her. Instead of just giving me a 30-day no-cause notice, she did it her way and it cost her a lot of money. I never did talk to her again. But I do know she couldn't use her driveway until I moved.